Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and first of all I'd like to sort of, given the organisations many of you work for in the audience, I'd like to sort of express my appreciation and view that often the work that NGOs do is criticised by politicians but actually adds significant value to what we do. I've spent time working with the Red Cross both in the UK and indeed in Myanmar, and my military past gives me some insight into some of the issues that particularly NGOs that have to deal with challenging situations approach in a way that isn't quite the same as you would get within the traditional corporate world. So my appreciation there. Certainly everything you see every day on Twitter or whatever confirms that technology is drastically changing our world. But if we now look at the amount of information we are hit with every day, some might say, is it changing our world for the better or for the worse? We are deluged with more information than ever before. The question is, can we get to a point where the information we are being given is the right information to enable us to do what we need to do better and therefore create a return on investment rather than a distraction? The question therefore is, does the future of technology and digitization enable us to create a better place to work or a worse place to work? Will it be us that is in control of the technology, or the technology who is in control of us? Some of you may have seen the reports from Amazon fulfillment centers where the people that have to collect the various items to go in our little boxes that we get have a little computer in their hand, and the computer knows the time it should take them to walk from item A to item B to collect it. And the computer bleeps. And as the time goes down and the person should be getting to the next bin, it gets faster and faster to encourage the human being to conform to what the computer requires. And if you fail to make it more than 3 times in one day, you're asked to explain yourself. It's a nice example of computers running people's lives. Is that the way we're going? Or are we going the other way? The other question I'd pose is, actually, we too often think that technology is the answer to all the ills. As long as we bring technology in, it will make everything better. Sorry, I slightly dispute that. I just think it's part of the answer. So I believe technology is there to help us as human beings do what we can do better and take away from us the things that technology can do better. Before we move into this amazing new digital world, I just pose the question, should we not make the world that we are currently in as good as we possibly can? I believe there's 2 simple challenges that all organizations have to fulfill. 1, to get the best from their people. 2, to focus that onto what delivers success. And I just pose the question, before we go digital, are we even getting that right? Under 20% of people in most organisations genuinely care about the outcome. The rest of them are there to do the job and get paid. 40% of people in one survey want to escape their boss as fast as possible. 49% of people in one survey said they slept badly at night because they were worried about what was happening at work on a regular basis. That indicates to me that actually the current world is in need of improvement. But I don't think these are technology issues. I believe that these are leadership issues. At its most basic, technology is part of the answer but not the complete answer. To put it bluntly, if your boss is an idiot, no amount of technology is going to stop them being an idiot. And I think that we have to keep in our mind. It's only going to be changing their behaviour that will do that. Technology may facilitate that process, but it's not going to make the fundamental change. I mean, it's also not just about why we have bad bosses. It's also about organisations failing to invest effectively in people. Let me do a little immediate survey here. How many of you in this room at any point in time in your career have ever been given any formal training on how to delegate effectively day to day? Put your hands up. Point made. Aristotle said, pleasure in the job puts perfection in the work. That was 2,500 years ago. And I don't believe how we get things to happen in organisations has changed significantly since then. And certainly we know that the human brain hasn't changed significantly in the last 250,000 years. So my perspective is, let's keep that at the centre of our thoughts when we're thinking about how we move forward. We know what gets the best from people. Over the last 8 or 9 years, I have gone around the world and I have asked groups of leaders what made them give super performance. And I promise you, the answer is the same list of 10 to 12 things, no matter where you are, no matter what the sector is, no matter what the level is in the organisation. Really complicated technical things like, my boss asked me for my ideas, my boss showed they cared about me, my boss told me what was going on. And each of those can produce a significant uplift in people's performance, even without technology. We know that if bosses do most of the things on that list that everybody already knows about, it can elicit 30% more effort from 60% of people. And even without the technology, that takes us halfway there. We also know that if you feed that through the system, certainly looking at it from a commercial side, that can put 10% on bottom line. If it can put 10% on bottom line within the commercial world, one must make the assumption that it can also have a significant performance impact in NGOs, public sector organisations. So what I'm saying is, even without the technology, every leader has the potential to significantly improve their own performance, the performance of the team, and their performance of their organisations, particularly within the NGO context, where you have a limited amount of money to some degree and unlimited demand for some of you in terms of what you have to do. But when you think about what those things that leaders do are, most of those on that list are not driven by rational thinking. They're driven by emotion. And that's the challenge that we face, that technology is not very good at doing emotion. So my thought is, before we enter this wonderful digital world, we need to think about what we are applying it to. Fragile, frail, confusing, and emotional human beings. So the other thing I find interesting is that the sort of developments in terms of neuroscience over the last 20 years have meant that we have a better understanding of what's going on up here. So in previous generations, organisations would say, you are a human being, this is our organisational process, you fit in with our organisational process, irrespective of how your brain works. That might have been effective then, but is it effective now? Too often organisations totally ignore the fact that if our brains perceive something as being negative, there is a rapid subconscious response that immediately means that we are not going to be engaged with it. And my argument is that now we know what we know about neuroscience, it is breaking some of the myths that organisational operating models have previously worked under. For example, we are not multitaskers. What happens up here is designed to work on single tasks one after the other. Enforcing multitasking really makes things more difficult for everybody. The constant interruptions we face at work. Every time we are concentrating on a task and somebody interrupts us, it takes us 20 minutes to regain the level of concentration we previously had. So all of these little additional points that we now understand confirm to me that with the technology we have in the future, we should be looking at the prospect of making the organisation fit the optimal way that this thing up here works to get the best of everybody. Now, that in my view then means more effective working, more satisfying working, more profitable working, more rewarding lives. Yes, it's clear if you look at what's happening in certain areas, be it fulfillment centres for Amazon and other organisations, and even now into law firms in the City of London, there are issues about technology removing jobs. That is an issue that society needs to address in terms of partnership between government, business and NGOs. If you look at some of the smaller countries, they're already, UAE in particular, they're already beginning to think about that. But we need to think more. What is great about technology is that it can make things happen that technology can do best and enable us as human beings to have more time to do what we are good at. Yes, they say that AI might be involved in leadership. I am waiting to see, working on the basis that, if you think about it, talking to human beings versus talking to something that isn't human cuts out 95% plus of the non-verbal communication signals that we use to motivate and inspire us emotionally on a day-to-day basis. That said, there are areas where technology can enhance what we as human beings do, not distract from it, not obstruct it, and not deluge us with unnecessary information that makes our lives difficult. So the future is about using technology, in my view, to enhance us as human beings, not to make us as human beings enhance the technology. And that way, I believe we would have more happy, more successful, more productive organizations. Thank you.
Thank you very much.